Year 1944. Europe was burning in the flames of the Second World War. The battlefields were changing every day, and powerful armies were trying their best to push each other back. Meanwhile, on a front in France, German soldiers were standing ready in their defensive positions. On the distant horizon in front of them, they noticed some movement. Within moments they realized that these were American tanks slowly advancing toward them. These were M4 Sherman tanks. But the surprising thing was that there was no fear on the faces of the German soldiers. Instead, they were looking at each other and smiling, because they were confident that these tanks would not last long against them. The reason was also clear. At that time, the German army possessed some of the most dangerous tanks in the world, the Tiger and Panther tanks. These tanks had become symbols of fear on the battlefield because of their thick armor and powerful guns. Their cannons were capable of destroying enemy tanks from a great distance. In comparison, the American Sherman tanks looked quite simple. Their armor was relatively weaker, and their gun was not as powerful as the German tanks. Because of this, German soldiers often mockingly called the Sherman tank the Tommy Cooker, because when it was hit, it often caught fire. The German tank crews were completely confident about the situation. They had hidden their tanks behind hills, inside forests, and among the ruins of destroyed buildings. It was a perfect ambush. They knew that as soon as the American tanks came within their range, destruction would begin. A few moments later, the American Sherman tanks began approaching the German defensive line. And then suddenly, the guns of the German tanks roared. A powerful explosion occurred. The first Sherman tank burst into flames. Just seconds later, the second tank was destroyed. Then the third. The battlefield filled with smoke, fire, and explosions. The German soldiers believed this was another easy victory. From their experience, Sherman tanks could not stand against them for long. But they did not realize that the real power of this battle had not yet appeared. A few moments later, a strange sound began to be heard in the sky. At first, the sound was very faint. The German soldiers looked up, but they could not see anything clearly. But as time passed, the sound kept getting louder. And then suddenly, not dozens, but hundreds of Allied aircraft appeared in the sky. This sight was extremely dangerous for the German soldiers, because it meant that the Allied forces had gained complete air superiority over the battlefield. Within moments, the air attack began. Dive bombers rapidly plunged downward, dropped their bombs, and climbed back into the sky. Fighter planes were firing rockets. Powerful bombs began falling on German tanks and defensive positions. The ground was shaking violently. Thick black clouds of smoke had spread across the entire battlefield. The powerful tanks like the Panther and Tiger that only moments ago had been the kings of the battlefield had now become open targets. Because no matter how strong a tank may be, it cannot remain safe for long against attacks coming from above. Allied aircraft kept attacking the German positions again and again. Rockets were striking the tanks directly. Bomb explosions shook the entire area. The situation for the German soldiers was rapidly getting worse. The soldiers who had been laughing at the Sherman tanks a short while earlier were now searching for cover to save their lives. Because the truth was that wars are not won by the strength of tanks alone. The American army had adopted a different strategy. Their tanks, ground troops, and air force were all working together in complete coordination. It was a combined power that was extremely difficult to fight against. This strategy gave the Allied forces a major advantage in the final years of the war. The Sherman tank might not have been the most powerful tank of the war, but its real strength was its numbers, speed, and the support of Allied air power. And it was this power that gradually began pushing the German army back. In the end, the outcome of the Second World War also proved this reality. Wars are not won by powerful weapons alone. They are won through strategy, cooperation, and combined strength. And by 1944, all of this power had come into the hands of the Allied forces.